Okay, so welcome to my show, Money, Power, and Medicine. My name is Dr. Charles, and I'll be your host. Today we have an amazing guest. His name is Dr.Niiamon Robertson, and he's a board-certified anesthesiologist. And we're just going to talk about medicine, talk about anesthesia. How did you get into the field? How did you get into locums? And things related to anesthesia, okay?
Cool, let's get into it.
So first, you're from Jersey. Right.
Born in New York, raised in Jersey, Plainfield, for a couple years. Nah, it's different now. Actually, no, when we were there, we had white people in the neighborhood. They all eventually left, then a lot of black people. We got a lot of Latin Americans and stuff now. I mean, people say it's the hood, but it's home. It's fine.
So you were going to say something. You went to Ghana for a little bit?
I lived in Ghana for a couple years. That's where my family's originally from. So I lived in Ghana, went to school there from 7 to 10. Came back here, did Catholic school for a couple of years, went to boarding school in Pennsylvania for middle school, high school, college in New Jersey, Rutgers, medical school in New Jersey, Rutgers.
Oh, I did too. I didn't know that.
Went to Rutgers?
Let's not talk about that.
All right, cool. Yeah, we won't.
I did both. I went to Rutgers undergrad and Rutgers med school.
Yeah, the Robert Wood Johnson, the one like...
Oh, no, you said New Brunswick. I didn't know it.
Well, it's Rutgers now. It was Robert Wood Johnson like right when we started, but it was literally like the dorm I lived in. My last 3 years at Rutgers University, you look out the window, the medical school is like right there. So even though it's a different name, like I was on the same campus. Like my friends that took an extra year or whatever to graduate, like I'd be going to lecture during my first year and I could go hang out with them. Literally just, it's a stone's throw from where like people would be. So it's like literally right on the same campus.
Did you do the Audacious program?
I did.
Do you feel like you would have been able to get to med school without the Audacious program?
I ran track in college.
Oh, that's dope.
That was a lot to deal with between school and all of that. So having Audacious there definitely helped a lot. I only ran for 3 out of the 4 years. So the year I took the MCAT, like I didn't even run that year. So I was just like, look, we're going to just study, try to knock this out. Definitely helps though, because it puts you around people that, you know, look like you or doing the same thing.
Suffering with you.
Exactly. That part's important because you can't hang around people that are going out, having fun all the time. You're supposed to be studying. You have to be a very disciplined person to still handle your business and do that. I'm not the most disciplined person ever, so I have to be around people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. I know a lot of people that were doing like other stuff and not hanging around people that, you know, were trying to do the same thing, accomplish the same things they were trying to do. And their path, wherever they eventually ended up, was not a smooth path for a journey that's already not easy. It was a bit turbulent for them, I would say.
Right. I think it's a lot to say. Like you're a Black anesthesiologist, physician. Do you have a lot of like Black friends who are anesthesiologists or physicians in general? I
do, but that's my reality is probably not the reality for other people. Like people that actually go to as patients. Like I've worked at a whole bunch of different places. I've worked at Harlem Hospital and I've had kids that are like, oh, they've never seen a Black doctor before.
Exactly.
So yes, I'm aware of what the reality is.
Yeah,
but
the numbers are.
Yeah, my reality is different. I probably know 10, 20 other anesthesiologists or I definitely know at least 20 doctors that are Black.
How about from childhood?
From childhood?
Like friends. So you clearly made friends throughout your journey, which I have too, but I don't have any like childhood friends who are physicians.
Nah, not childhood friends.
Okay.
Actually, I mean, we're not really cool anymore, but there's someone I went to Catholic school with. This is like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I look on Facebook.
But that's not your friend. If you got to go back,
I mean, we're cool, but it's not like, you know, we're not still cool anymore. But she just finished her like dermatology residency. So we're about the same. I'm guessing she jumped into medicine later because we're about the same age.
Let's run it back though. You went to boarding school and so did your brother. How was that like?
It was all boys boarding school. I mean,
did it make you more disciplined? Do you feel like?
That's when I really got into sports, I would say. More disciplined, probably. But then you would think it would translate to your freshman year in college. And I was fine. I was kind of messing around with the work freshman year in college. So maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know. I was always used to like living on my own, like being without my parents and all that stuff.
Are your parents physicians?
Nah, my mom used to work for the UN for years. She's retired now.
Okay.
And my dad used to do accounting. And then he did like real estate investments. I don't really know what he does now. He does something.
Money though, real estate investments.
Yeah, we're not rich. No, not.
You are.
We were fine. We weren't rich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me think. So now we're going to fast forward to college. What made you decide to go into medicine?
I was always good at science, so that would just seem like a logical choice.
Okay.
Yeah. Science was easy for me. It was second nature. So that seemed like a logical choice.
What about mentors? Did you have a mentor that you can talk to, guide you?
I mean, the head guy, the Audacious program, Dr. Khan.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
I would say, I guess it didn't feel like a one-on-one mentorship, but it had the feel where it was just like, look, if you handle your business, do what he says, you'll be good.
He was super parental.
Yeah.
He was a father figure. I would say that.
But if you did what you were supposed to do as far as the schoolwork and all that went, like, did well on your MCAT, like you were going to medical school somewhere, maybe not your first or second choice, but you were going to get in somewhere. So if I had to pick one, something like that. Obviously, when you're in the program, you also become friends with people that are older, a couple years ahead of you going through the process. You get some insight into what they're doing, but you become friends with them, you talk about it, but maybe but not
you really
like
don't
in
know.
depth.
You don't know until you're in it.
But everything's spelled out for you. So you know what you have to do. Like 90% of it is just like, you got to sit down and do the work.
Yeah.
That's really 90% of it.
And when you say work, what do you mean? Like, how did you prepare for the MCAT?
So they had an MCAT course over spring break.
Yeah, that was brutal. It was like a boot camp.
Yeah, I can't even remember what the hours were because this was a long time.
It was brutal, but it was okay. You survived.
Yeah, you start up pretty early, steady all day.
If you had one tip, because one thing people constantly ask me is like, how do you prepare for the MCATs? One tip. One word of advice that will change your outcome. Or how did you know that you were prepared to take the MCATs? Like what really put you over the edge?
They kind of had a format where you go through the process with the practice tests.
I think it was practice tests for me. And questions.
The thing about it is and especially even when you get to medical school and the board exams, there's entirely too much material to run through in your head to see what you know. You're not going to know what you know until someone or something, the practice test, asks you those questions. So until that happens, you don't know. The practice test is probably the best way to gauge how you're going to do. And they're organized in a way where the difficulty of each test increases as you approach the real thing, the real test stage. So the best piece of advice, you have to study on your own outside of class as well. And you got to take the class seriously. You got to study while you're there. You should see progress as you go through the practice test.
How many hours should you be dedicating?
Man, honestly, this was so long ago.
Right? Okay. If you can't answer, it's okay.
My brother could probably answer this
here.
question. Honestly, however many hours you think is enough when you're doing it, add more to it. That's probably what it is.
It was a lot. I remember going to the library from open to close.
Yeah, because if you want to be one of those guys that scores, I don't even know what the scoring system is now.
It's different now.
Yeah.
It's I think three digits. I think I had one of my mentees said that they got a 495 and they needed to get above a 505. Yeah, when I took it, it was double digits.
Yeah, a 30 was a decent score when I took it. If you want to get 32, 33, 34, if you're not already just naturally a genius, you got to put in a lot of time.
Okay. So you clearly were successful at the MCATs. You killed the exam.
I did okay. I didn't kill it, but I did well enough.
To get into med school. Yeah. How many med schools did you apply to?
So they had a program at Rutgers where you could do classes there you had to get a certain score on your MCAT, but you could do classes during your junior or senior year. You take biochemistry and something else maybe. And if you did well in the class, obviously your MCAT was good, you're automatically accepted.
For which program?
This was, I can't remember what the name was, but this was through Audacious and through Robert Wood, which is why I went, because it was look.
Okay. So it was a combined program?
Sort of, yeah. It was either that or go to NJMS, which is the one at the Rutgers in Newark.
That's right. That's why I went. It's nothing wrong with that school. It was amazing.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just look, it's one of the two. If I can you get credit for that class too. So when you start your first year, you don't have to take that class. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me. I was already there, close to where I lived. it's going to be cheaper than going to school out of state. And in my mind at the time, it's like, yo, you're going to be in medical school. You're probably not going to have much time to do anything else. So might as well
I'm
just stay
confused
where
though. So was your last year, was it a combined program in the sense of your last year in college was your first year in medical school? Was it a program like that? No.
Combined in the sense that your last year of college, and I'm pretty sure that's when we took that class. It was like biochemistry and one other class. You took it in addition to your regular college curriculum, whatever you were taking that fourth year.
But you still did 4 years of med school?
Yeah, so 4 years.
So you're in med school. How was med school?
Med school is hard. But it was, I had a lot of fun in medical school. Maybe too much. Yeah.
What were you doing?
I mean, again, a lot of my friends in college, like people that, took an extra year or they were younger, like my first and second year, I still knew a lot of people that were at Rutgers University.
So you were partying?
I mean, I would go out when I could, like when a test was coming up or something, like, yeah, you shut it down. You got to, study and handle business. But yeah, there was always time. You're not going to study 24 hours a day. Like you still do stuff, go to the gym, play basketball, soccer, all that stuff. I do it more now. I played more sports back then because that's what I was used to doing.
So how was it being a medical student? Did you have any issues with patients or attendings? Do you feel like you were able to relate to people? Do you feel like you had a mentor?
That medical school in that sense was easy. The non-studying part stuff was easy. Talking to people, that's not a problem. Studying, the amount of information that you have to learn, that's the hard part.
Okay. Yeah. How did you find balance?
Xbox, play a lot of FIFA, all
that stuff. You play Xbox?
Yeah, I play video games, well, not everything. You have to try to have a balanced, normal life or you'll drive yourself crazy.
Okay. How did you decide on anesthesia?
I always thought I would do something like surgery or whatever, but then, you go through the rotations, you're waking up at 4 a.m., 4:30.
It's early.
You're rounding, seeing patients. You find out what you like and what you don't like. And it wasn't until I did my anesthesia rotation, I'm going to guess third year. I was like, all right, this is cool. I think I could do this.
It's still early though.
It's still early, but you already have an idea. Like, I didn't want to do internal medicine, family medicine. Like, I don't want to be talking to people and writing notes all day. Like, very early on, you know what you definitely don't want to do.
What did you like about anesthesia?
That was one of the few things I was really interested in the beginning was like, wow, I have no idea what's going on back here. Like even during, my surgery rotation, I did that first. It was like, oh shit, I have no idea what's going on back here. Like, this is cool. Like between the medications, physiology, all that was interesting. But I know I like it now because when there's an issue and we're fixing it, we get our result pretty quickly. You're not waiting days, weeks to see if something's working. Yeah. Usually when we fix something or deal with something, it's in the
immediate
moment you get your result.
Okay.
I need things to happen. So
if you can do it all over again, would you do anesthesia? Would you be in medicine first? Would you be in medicine?
I consider how life is going now. Yeah, I would do it again.
It's amazing for you guys.
Yeah, consider how life is going now. Yeah. If starting now let's say from college, that I don't know because I couldn't tell you what things are going to be like 10 to 15 years from now. But considering where I'm now, I would do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do anesthesia specifically again?
Yeah, I would do it again.
You would do it the same way?
I'll do it the same exact way. Medical school is not easy. Residency
it's not for everybody.
Easy. I have friends, they left during medical school and then they were much happier when they did. I don't think it's something
What are they doing?
What does he do? One person, we're not really friends anymore. I'm not sure what she's doing.
Oh, okay.
One of my other boys, he's doing consulting. I can't remember which company, but he's happy.
The
moment he left, he was happier.
Because it's a lot of work.
It's not fun. And you try to tell people, you talk to people about it. The only people that will ever understand are the people that do it. No one will ever understand how difficult it is unless they've done it.
But you guys seem happy. So when I say you guys, I'm talking about your anesthesia friends that I see on Instagram. Yeah. It's how many of you guys? 6, 7?
It's a decent size group. But there are other people in there other specialties.
I don't pay attention to that. Pains. You guys travel a lot.
I don't travel as much as I did in the beginning, but a decent amount.
Okay.
I mean, you work a lot. You got to balance a little vacation here and there, or you'll drive yourself crazy.
Okay. So, did you talk your brother into going to med school?
No.
How did you decide on that? Was it parental structure? household?
I feel like knowing both of our personalities, well, mine specifically, if you try to make me do something, I'm probably not going to do it. So I never felt like I was forced to do anything.
Okay.
It was always like, if I'm good at something, I'm going to ride that out.
So your parents had no influence?
No, they definitely did, but I never felt like that's what I had to do. It's like I was never forced to do anything. Okay. If I wanted to do something else, I could have done something else.
Like, a lot of my doctor friends are African.
They're probably all Nigerian.
I thought you were Nigerian.
Most of the Black doctors I know are Nigerian. That's just...
Yeah, a lot of them. Is it a Nigerian thing?
It's probably it. I'm not Nigerian, so I can't speak on it.
Okay. We talk about anesthesia. There's 3 different ways to make money in anesthesia. I'm in academics. There's private practice, and there's also locums. And when I graduated from residency, they made it seem like doing locums was crazy. You would, have crazy cases. You wouldn't know where you'll be working from day to day. And it just wasn't, quote unquote, ideal to do. Like, I felt like I was kind of guided into going into academics in a way, or not really.
I mean,
you understand what I'm saying?
I kind of understand what you're saying. I mean, they push people, do a fellowship, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I definitely did a fellowship.
Yeah, I didn't do any of that.
And you're making like double what I'm making.
You're
making double what I'm making. Let's not be modest.
For conversation purposes, let's say, sure, I am.
Let's break it down. So when I work in academics, the institution that I work for, they provide my malpractice insurance. They provide some of my health insurance. I still have to pay out of pocket for some of my health insurance.
Yeah.
They contribute to my 403B, which is equivalent to a 401k, and little stipends here and there. I think they give me like $5,000 for CME credits, so I can go on conferences and pay for licensing. Now, locums. Locums, I really didn't pay attention to until the pandemic. So I had a friend who left their academic gig to do locums, and he was making like $400 an hour. I'm like, how? How is this possible? It doesn't make any sense. So can you tell me a little bit about locums? Why did you decide to do locums?
So I didn't do that from the beginning. So
what did you do first?
I stayed on the place that I trained, but I was per diem. So I just worked on an hourly basis, and there was flexibility. Now you could work for as long as you want. You want to work 8 hours, you wanted to work 10 hours, you wanted to work 12. It's like, all right, they were cool with it. They needed They needed people. They were short. It was a place that probably historically is always going to be short. They're short now. So that worked. And it's a familiar place to, gain your reps, gain experience, because like bad things have to happen. You have to get yourself out of certain situations to learn. So I started there, and I started at another hospital. I was per diem there also. And, between those 2 places, I haven't been back to one place in like a year, but between those 2 places, I've been working at those places for 5 years. So I guess you could just call me a per diem employee. Like, I'm on staff at those places. I have been for, the last 5 years, and probably will be for the, foreseeable future. And then I do a lot of stuff. Once I got board certified, I started doing a lot of stuff, office-based stuff. So again, not really like locums where you're traveling and working with agencies. This is like, working with informal relationships with like, other people, groups where you're, covering plastic surgery offices, doing office-based procedures and stuff like that. So I had a decent mix of that. I didn't really start doing more hospital stuff until during the pandemic and after. So now the mix is a little bit more, I wouldn't necessarily go 50-50, maybe 60-40, like traditional hospital locum stuff. This is kind of how it evolved. And it's not always going to stay this way forever. There's probably going to be a time where it shifts back to how the original model was. But
you said that the other day, and I'm like, I don't really see that, because anesthesia, we're in a situation now where we don't have providers. A lot of providers have retired.
Yeah.
And you also have a lot of providers who have left medicine in general because of a couple of reasons. I think, COVID really changed people's mindset, right? A bit. People want to spend more time with their families, spend more time traveling or doing things outside of medicine, because it can get rigorous.
It's not easy, but
when you say it's not easy, what do you mean? Well, I know what you mean.
Well, to answer your first question, anesthesia has gone through cycles. Like, you talk to older people, they're there was a point where they couldn't even fill residency spots because it just wasn't, a desirable profession.
Mm-hmm.
There are periods of market forces where salaries are really low. It's really, really hard to find a job. And then we have what we have now. It's not going to stay that way forever. I couldn't tell you when. I hope it stays like this for as long as possible. But you have to operate with the mindset that it's not going to stay that way forever.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So you have to be flexible and willing to adapt. As things change, you can't be rigid. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a hard spot one day.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the work not being easy,
it's the hours.
People always ask me, like, how many hours a week do you work? Like, I don't really count.
I do.
It's just, you're tired. You go to work for 10, 12, 14 hours. It's like you come home, you think you want to go to the gym. It's like, where's the energy?
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming home to somebody, they want to talk and do stuff. It's like, yo, I'm tired. I have to wake up at 5:30, 6 in the morning.
You don't count your hours?
No, not really.
Okay. Let's go through a work week.
A work week. All right, let's go through next week. Monday, a 9-hour day. I'm supposed to play in a basketball game, like a rec game, tomorrow night. I missed the first couple of games, so I'm going to show up. Tuesday, same thing. It's a 9-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
Might get out early, which is great. Go to the gym after
but you're
work,
not counting
chill.
on it.
No, I've gotten this place that I've been going to, I've been getting out, pretty early. And honestly, if you get out at 3 is pretty early. Most people still work then. I mean, we start a little bit earlier, but it's fine.
Wednesday,
I have a very long day. Wednesday, I work during the day for 9 hours. I get like a little break, and then I'm doing overnight call.
So you're doing 24?
It ends up being like 22 hours, but it's at 2 different places.
We're going to have 24. Bad. All right.
Sure, 24 hours.
So now we're at 44 hours.
Yeah, I'm already not even counting. I just know how the day's going to go, so it doesn't matter for me. It's like, I'm used to this place. Thursday, 10-hour day.
54. Friday,
same thing, 9 hours, and then
60.
over and out, 12.
Oh my God.
But I'm going somewhere over the weekend, and then I'm not working Monday or Tuesday. I don't work again until Wednesday, so I did that on purpose.
So for me, one of the issues I have with anesthesia is just starting early and not knowing when I'm getting out. I think that's what makes it a little tiring.
Oh yeah, I know when I'm leaving. So it's like, cool, if I'm working 14 hours, I'm like, all right, cool, I'm counting down till 9 p.m., but I know when I'm leaving. They might ask you like, yo, can you stay later and help out? If I don't have anything to do and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll help out, but I know when I'm leaving.
So you do a combination of per diem and locums? I'm confused though.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you let's say somebody is listening to this and they are in their last year of residency. How would you start doing locums?
I mean, in your last year of residency, I'm sure there are probably people blowing up their phones already. The moment you have a New York State license or license in whatever state, your phone will start ringing. But I also spoke with people that did office-based stuff. Like, these are people that worked at academic centers, and eventually they're just like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm crossing over to the other side. They just wanted more control, like, over their lives. They wanted to know when they were going home and all that kind of stuff. So
would
they weren't necessarily.
Would you recommend a senior year resident to get a locums job starting out fresh from residency?
That one's tough because a lot of people come out of residency. I don't necessarily know if they're ready to be on their own, get themselves out of a lot of trouble.
What kind of trouble?
Complications during surgeries.
Like
I would say what I did was, I think that's the sensible route. If you can stay on per diem where you trained until you're board certified, I think that's a reasonable route to go, because you get to work as an attending in a place you're familiar with people you're familiar with, and you understand the environment. It's not an environment where you're going to be alone, middle of the night. Like, there'll be help, or alone in a dungeon and
I think that's the most important thing is help. Are you going to have somebody else that's available if you're getting into airway difficulty, pressure difficulty, IV help, right?
Yeah.
These are some of the things that complications or issues that you can have as an anesthesiologist.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know how good you are until these issues arise. So I would say that would be my ideal advice, because, like, you don't want to give advice to someone, hey, go get a locum job, but you won't know that they're not ready for it. They'll be the only ones that would know that they're not ready for it. And if they're not real with themselves, then, you might set yourself up for unfavorable situations. For me, I worked at 2 places where At night, I'm the only guy. Like the place I'm going Wednesday and
like
Friday
that.
night, I'm the only person. So, but honestly, at this point, I trust myself and my abilities.
Are you getting sleep at night? No.
Sometimes, yeah. I usually
Are they doing
on
OB?
average. I usually only is it nighttime? It's OB.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most nights. Because I usually work the day after at this point. I wouldn't, if it was something crazy, I wouldn't work the day
Since
after.
we're talking about OB real quick, I wanted to put this out there. This is one of your questions. I don't know if you had time to review it.
I quickly
you saw the question? So we know that African-American women or Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to die during childbirth. And there was a case recently, I'm not going to say the name. It was a tragic situation. And there was an anesthesiologist, I believe, who placed an epidural. We're already scared of epidurals. We're already scared of regional, right? And
we are, they are.
Black women.
Okay.
Black women, I think I've been noticing some of my friends have preferred to do natural birth, no epidural, outside of the operating room, outside of the hospital because of the complications, right? The complications, unfortunately, are occurring inside of a hospital in the US. It's crazy. So this particular case, the anesthesiologist was known to have complications and was still on staff. I think they had issue staffing, right? So even though they knew that he was having some complications, he remained on staff. He placed the epidural catheter and it was intrathecal.
Yeah.
Apparently he did not do a test dose.
So I actually know somebody that was working there during that time.
I know. I think we know the same person.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think about that case?
That's avoidable.
It is avoidable, and I think people don't know that.
It's definitely avoidable.
If you do
I mean, personally, if I'm placing an epidural and you have to test it, well, because the place I work,
know it's intrathecal.
And you also know,
you know your catheter is intrathecal. And there's nothing wrong with having an intrathecal catheter. Like, I remember during training, knowing you have an intrathecal catheter,
fine.
You just have to dose it appropriately.
But it has to be labeled as such. And if it's not, or if you're there and you don't know it's there, then that's when people get hurt.
Let me not say there's nothing wrong. I'm just going to say that it's manageable. Like, you can manage an intrathecal catheter.
It's wrong in the sense that you weren't intending to do it, and you
did. And you gave a full epidural dose.
You can salvage it. Now, that kind of situation, it's one of those places where it's hard for them to attract people. There's already a shortage. It's maybe not, the most desirable place to work for whatever reason. So you're more likely to have people that are not board certified there. Might have lawsuits.
Yeah, I think that was I don't know if he was board certified. I don't think so.
People that have, questionable employment history and stuff like that. You're more likely to have it at those places. But that's the kind of thing, from the outside looking in, looking back, because obviously it's always easy to look back. And, I'm not trying to point fingers or any of that, but we've had issues at the place where I work where if something like that happens, like, you have to sign it out appropriately because it's a disaster.
I think it happened immediately. It wasn't even post.
And there's certain things. So, like, if you're placing a catheter into a place that you can't see, there's steps to make sure that it's not accidentally in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the bloodstream or
intrathecal, which means it's in, I don't know how you explain.
To put it quickly, it's in a part of the spinal cord where the dose you give makes a huge difference versus the other space. I think it's like a 10x different or something like that. So you have to test for it. That's, the only, reliable way. So, I do it. For me, I have to be careful. I'm the only person there.
Yeah.
If something goes south quickly, I have to fix everything.
There's no reason not to do a test dose, though. There's no reason.
Unless you don't have lidocaine with epi. There was a shortage of that, so that happens sometimes. But
it is ghetto.
It happens. I mean, it's not the hospital's fault. It's the manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been going on with a lot of medications recently. Yeah. What advice do you have for Black women? This is a hard question. So if you can't answer it, it's okay.
You have to just listen to people. If you think something is wrong, just say something. A lot of times people say things and get ignored.
Exactly.
Raise hell. Like, if you truly feel something
is arrested. It's a hard question.
Yeah, no, if you really feel something is wrong, like raise hell until somebody listens to you. Because even if whoever you think their staff's going to get annoyed or whatever, they'll get over it. Like the moment their shift is over, they're not going to care anymore. But that's the best thing you can do is to say something, because we don't know everything. So I've had patients in all kinds of situations where they felt something was off. So until I can figure it out or until they feel better, you have to pay attention to it.
I think my best advice for Black women is to go to a really good hospital. Like, I would not advise a friend to go to that hospital.
You don't always get to pick where you go, though. That's the thing. Yeah. You don't always get to choose where you go. And truth be told, you don't know how good whoever's operating on you is. You don't know how good whoever's placing your
But there are institutions that have better reputations than others.
Yeah, but
like that place does not have a good reputation.
It may not, but the place that I work, it's like you could basically call it a hole in the wall, a hospital. But the OBs are very good. The residents are very good. Like, if I told most people in New York which hospital it is, unless they're from that part of the city,
they wouldn't.
I actually meet a lot of people that are, oddly enough, are born there. They wouldn't know where it was. They would probably pick one of the bigger hospitals in the city that you could go to. And I'd argue that the OBs where I work are just as good, if not better. Like,
yeah, but I'm talking about like a systems, operating from a systems, like systems place. Like, what advice do you give a Black woman who is pregnant? Like, what should you do? Because this is a real concern. Right? During OB, people are scared to go to the hospital. And I say, just go to a really, really good hospital. I think where I work is amazing. I can't see that type of, accidents do happen, but I don't see that kind of complication happening at my institution. It's not going to happen.
From an anesthesia standpoint, no. I know where you work.
It's not going to happen. We're very by the book.
Yeah, but that's also that only covers one side of, there's the anesthesia side and then there's the other side of it. That doesn't mean that there can't be complications as far as going through the delivery process.
You're right, because it's high risk no matter, right?
Yeah, certain patients are just high risk. But then if you look at, I follow track and field. Tori Bowie just passed. We don't know a lot of the details around it, but, that's someone that, that's a sprinter. Like, that's as healthy as people come from a...
She died during?
Apparently it seems after.
Rest in peace.
But based on the time period, you consider it within that period. And again, we don't know a lot of the details surrounding it, and we don't know her history. But someone that, is an Olympic medalist is probably somewhat healthy.
Yeah.
So you would think, that's the last person that should have, complications in that kind of setting. But even that person can. So, it's dangerous. That's the one thing. Like, maybe some people don't realize it, but getting pregnant and having a child,
it's a blessing.
And it can be dangerous. So people that are going through it, if you feel something's off, you got to raise hell. And because it happens where you hear these stories where people are saying, oh, something's wrong, or, the husband, whatever, father of the baby, say, oh, something's wrong, and people blow it off, only to come and find out later, oh, they've been bleeding for the last however.
And that happened recently with one of, like, a famous judge, her daughter in California.
I don't even know if I've heard that story, specific story, but I've probably heard enough of those stories that sound like that, where it's like, okay.
What do you think the real issue is?
I don't think it's just one thing.
Because it's Black women. It's not other women. It's Black women.
So the place that I work, the population is largely Chinese, Bengalis, some Latino. We don't really have a lot of white or Black patients. I don't necessarily know what the complication rate is, if it's any different than other places, but whatever issue is affecting Black women, that same part of it is least affecting other people as well.
I think also, race definitely plays a big part, right? Because I think people just don't, I hate to say it, I think people don't listen to Black women complaining about pain sometimes.
They may not. And I'm not discrediting that at all. But again, I work at places with other people. And there are a lot of times where people just getting rid of, oh, this person's just a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and they complain.
They're just complaining, blah, blah, blah. That's definitely, I don't necessarily think it's something unique
it's multifactorial.
Yeah, it's multifactorial, but that definitely plays a part, I would say. It definitely plays a part. Not exclusively unique to Black women. That's not the only reason, but that's definitely part of it. Because I trained at a place where we had a lot of Black nurses, Latino nurses, like in the Bronx. Maybe a decent amount of the GYNs or the residents or the OBs were not, Black or, Latino or minorities, period. But that's the population you're dealing with. There's enough of the staff that are where you would assume, all right, cool, they should be relatable. But the same issues are still there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely multifactorial. I don't necessarily think it's one particular thing. And even for me, I always thought, patients also have to do some work on themselves. Like you have to watch what you eat, take care of yourself. But if this can happen to a assumingly completely healthy Olympic athlete, and again, there are a lot of details that we don't know, but if it's truly a complication from childbirth, then it's like, if that person's at risk for it, then everybody's at risk for it. So there's something else at play that we
But
have to
it's
get
not everybody.
Well, everybody in the sense of Black women, healthy or not the healthiest, everyone's at risk of it now.
Okay. I have some questions for you. But before I get to the other questions, I'll let you drink your water.
Yeah.
Have you ever faced any issues being a Black anesthesiologist? Like discrimination, do you feel like?
No, I haven't personally. I have friends that have worked, because I've mostly worked in this area. So most people here are used to seeing, maybe not people that look like me in my position, but at least in some way. You've seen people outside that look like me. I've had friends that in different specialties that have, traveled to other states, and, stories like, people didn't want a Black doctor. So,
So what do they do in that situation?
If they better hope there's somebody else, because I've had patients at night where it's like you're going to do an epidural, and because of their religion, cultural beliefs, like they don't want a male doctor.
Yeah,
so
that happens a lot.
They'll forego an epidural. No offense taken. That's what you want. That's what you want. But I mean, personally, if someone told me they didn't want a Black doctor, well, good luck. It's either me or nobody else.
Do you feel like so I had a situation like that during residency where a patient didn't want me as their resident.
Yeah.
And my attending was just like, sorry, you can go someplace else because, this is the resident that's going to be in the room.
Yeah.
I also get a lot of Black patients who are like, oh my God, you're my doctor. I've never seen, a Black female anesthesiologist.
There are people that are happy to see you because they're used to seeing,
and it feels good.
People that don't look like you. Yeah. They need to know it's we exist. There might not be a lot of us, but it's possible.
All right. So let's talk about locums some more, because I have my questions here. These are just questions. I'm not texting. So to do locums, did you have to set up a LLC, PLLC?
PLLC in New York.
Did you get a lawyer to review your corporation?
I don't remember. I might have set up my PLLC myself. It was annoying to do, but it's doable just because you have to deal with New York State. And at the government level, things just move slowly.
Who does your taxes?
I have someone.
I mean, my tax person is not good. I will not be using him next year.
I mean, if you're W-2, there's really only so much. It's not worth going to pay somebody thousands of dollars to do your taxes.
Okay.
In my opinion, at least. If most of your income is W-2, it's not. You can probably do it yourself. I know people that do their own taxes and they do what I do. That's just beyond me, so I'm not doing that. But I know people that do what I do and they do their own taxes.
So your CPA is not?
I'm going to switch. I'm in the process of switching. They're not as responsive as I would like. But so far, so good. Otherwise,
because I'm having that issue too. Like I'm emailing my CPA and they'll take a week or two to email me back.
Call them. But depending, because the thing, when they have a lot of clients, especially like during tax season, they're probably just getting bombarded with question after question, which probably explains the delay in the response time.
I need a good CPA. All right, next question. How much is medical malpractice insurance?
It depends. The company I use, I just got to the 5-year mark where I haven't had any issues.
You can give me a range. You don't have to tell me exactly how much you spend.
The most expensive I've seen this year is like $32,000
for the year.
For the year.
Okay.
There are different companies. I don't pay my own malpractice insurance. One of the places I work pays for it for me, and I can use it elsewhere. There are other companies that are about half the price, but the specific hospital that I work with, that's the company that they choose to use.
Okay.
I don't know what the reason is. Maybe they've had a good relationship with them or something, but that's the company they choose to use. So Reasonably, you could expect to, if you're paying for it yourself, anywhere between 17, 18,000 and 30 something thousand dollars a year.
Okay. And this is a good question. Take your time. Around how much money could you potentially make doing locums?
It depends how much you want to work.
How about per hour? What's the average that you've seen, or what's the range that you've seen?
Right now, probably between, realistically, what most people are going to try to offer you now is somewhere between $300 and $350 an hour.
That's not bad.
No. If you're willing to work a lot, it's great.
I'm sorry?
If you're willing to work a lot, it's great.
Okay. How do you prepare for a locum shift?
Anesthesia is anesthesia. As long as you know where everything is, it's all the same
I
stuff.
seen you with a little bag. What do you have in that little bag?
A
Duffel bag.
A lot of stuff that I don't really use. If you're going to a hospital that has everything, you don't need it. If I'm going to a plastic surgery office where there's no glide scope or anything like that, I have my McGrath and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
ET2.
Do you feel like you're pulling out your McGrath a lot? I like that McGrath.
No, I have two of them. And I couldn't even tell you the last time I used it.
Really?
Yeah. I have my own DL stuff. I mean, 99% of things can be done with a Miller 2, so that's what I use most of the time.
You like Miller 2s? I'm a Mac girl.
Yeah. So I don't use my McGrath a lot. It's still on the original battery 5 years later.
What?
Yeah, I don't have to use it a lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
How was it working during the pandemic?
Oh, it was just work. You go to work, go home, to do whatever you didn't do at home, and go to work again.
Okay.
It was easy to save money because you weren't spending money on it.
No. I think for me, it was probably just the hours. Like at my institution, we were switching between day and night shift, and that was not fun.
I already did it. I was already doing it before the pandemic.
Alternating between day and night?
Yeah, I did it. My schedule was all over the place.
Okay.
I would work at night twice a week. I'd work so I was already used to jumping around. So for me, it wasn't a big deal.
Did you leave New York? Were you going to other places?
No, I've only done work in the New York area. I've never traveled for work.
Okay. So our final segment is anesthesia-related questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know the answers to these questions, but for our viewers, why is it important not to eat or drink anything after midnight?
They tell people not to do anything after midnight because if you give them the truth that you can drink water up to 2 hours before your surgery.
Don't tell them that.
You can. That's what's on our test. People are going to mess it up. So just to be safe, they tell you not to eat anything after midnight.
And why is it important not to eat?
So whatever's in your stomach doesn't come up and get into your lungs.
Because this is a real complication, though.
Bad things can happen.
It can go into your lungs and you can die.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah.
You can die. Seriously. I think have you ever had like an aspiration case before?
I mean, probably some amount of it. I've had people, vomit during cases. There's an LMA and you have to take it out, suction. Pregnant women tend to vomit a lot during C-sections. They're awake, so it's not a big deal, but the risk is always there. Mm-hmm. You're always reminded of why you tell patients not to.
It's a big deal. The food is a big deal. The water, maybe not, but the food,
yeah,
big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the chance, and obviously these are questions from my friends and family, what is the chance of serious complications from anesthesia? Just depends.
It's probably low. I always tell people it's in a hospital setting, it's very hard to kill a healthy person because 1 million people are going to run into the room the moment something's going wrong, and you probably won't succeed in killing someone. If that was your goal, so it's hard to kill. I mean, I'm not saying it like I'm some sort of sociopath, but it's just like patients ask
help. Yeah.
Because when you tell people what are the risks before they sign the consent, you have to tell them you could die. But some people get worried, and I tell them if someone here really had it out for you, they probably wouldn't be able to do it because not with our medications. The moment something goes wrong, a bunch of people are going to run into the room. The situation will be under control. It's highly unlikely.
I think people don't understand the steps of anesthesia. So can you break that down? So a patient is having, let's say,
well, to answer your question, the more medical problems you are, the more likely you are to die under anesthesia. If you have heart failure, you have uncontrolled coronary artery disease, respiratory issues, you're more likely to die than a healthy person.
I think COPD is one of the bigger issues that I encounter where I'm okay.
Yeah, freak things like peas and all that stuff could happen, but they're so rare. It's not even worth worrying about. You're more likely to die in a car accident.
I agree. So let's talk about anesthesia. What happens when a patient leaves the holding area and comes into your operating room?
I usually do the prep. It's like taxiing for takeoff, basically. You the monitors, make sure everything's cool, make sure they're okay make sure all your stuff's ready, before you decide to, put the patient to sleep. Because that's between that part, going to sleep, and when the patient wakes up or emerges, if you want to be technical, that's when a lot of your complications happen. Probably the majority of them.
Induction too, though.
Yeah, induction, like going to sleep, induction, and emerge. Yeah. So
a patient comes into your room, place all the monitors on, and then what's next?
Make sure they're okay. If you want to give them a little medication to help them relax, you can do that.
IV.
IV, assuming that's all in already.
Then pre-medication.
Pre-medication. Usually, I see some cowboy stuff happen outside, but usually...
Let's not talk about cowboy stuff.
You give people 100% oxygen for a couple minutes. How sick they are, body habit is. I'll try to work with people. But, sometimes...
You'll take the oxygen mask off?
Or just put it like close to their face.
Okay.
It'll still buy you some time, but you're not going to have as much time as you need. Because once you put the patient to sleep, they're not breathing for a period of time.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted you to get to.
Yeah. Once you decide to do whatever you're going to do to make sure that, they're able to breathe during the surgery, then they'll be breathing again. But let's say it's difficult for whatever reason. It takes you 5, 10, however many minutes to do it.
To get the tube in. So there's different devices.
Yeah, you can put a breathing tube in, which most people are terrified of, but it's your best friend in this situation. Or we have a little device that we use as a mask that sits behind your tongue. You can, give breaths through that. However long it takes you to put that in, you'll buy yourself time if you give them oxygen before you put them to sleep. Because you never know when it's going to be difficult. You can think it's going to be easy and it'll be difficult in the moment. Yeah. And the only way to prepare for that is
you always have to be prepared. Yeah. Always have to be prepared. I think I had a case last week where it was an easy mat case. I think it was a foot case, and the surgeon had to give local, and heavy smoker. Just kept on
half the time.
Coughing. So I ended up intubating because she just kept on coughing throughout the case. Okay. What is given to make sure a patient does not wake up feeling nauseous?
Oh, there's no guarantee, but...
Yeah, there's no guarantee.
You have a steroid medication, and from what I remember, the mechanism was unknown, but it helps. And
I give Zofran.
We give Zofran. Some institutions have other medications that you can give prior. Aprepitant is one of them. I don't remember if that's the brand or the generic name, but a lot of places don't have that, but some places
Scopolamine patches.
Yeah, it very rarely does it even get to that, but yeah, you can do that.
I feel like I do that routinely sometimes. If a patient says that they have post-op nausea and vomiting, like I'll probably put a scopolamine patch on.
Yeah, I usually just do IV anesthesia then.
Tiva.
Yeah.
How would someone feel when they wake up from anesthesia?
I've never had it, but you're probably, from what it looks like, objectively, you'll probably just feel tired, groggy, disoriented.
Has someone ever died during anesthesia that you took care of?
Yes, they had. That's happened before.
Trauma case? Because it's not elective.
There was one elective one I remember. There was a trauma case. Actually, I done a few trauma cases where that's happened at different places.
Residency?
One in residency. We didn't have trauma during residency, but someone got shot right outside the hospital, so we ended up doing the case because you're right there, so they're not going to take you elsewhere. That person didn't make it. It was a long shot, considering all things considered anyway, but it happens.
We did a lot of trauma during residency.
Yeah, you guys, you're at Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of it. We did
a lot. And they're amazing. The Army trains there before they get deployed.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you deal with the patient death? Okay, you don't internalize it?
No.
Just, okay.
Yeah, you do your best, hope for the best, and then you got to keep moving because there's probably more work waiting for you.
Which patients have the highest rate of complications during anesthesia?
Probably the unhealthier patients. The people with the most medical problems usually do.
Okay.
If you already have respiratory issues with your lungs, breathing, you're more likely to have issues.
Mm-hmm.
If you can barely walk a block or walk up a flight of steps, you are probably going to have some issues.
Mm-hmm.
Those are usually the people that I worry about.
Okay.
That are going to have complications.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
I have no idea.
No? Are you still practicing anesthesia?
Probably at some capacity.
Are you investing?
Yeah.
What are you investing in?
Property. Not as much like securities because the market's, I've lost enough.
Were you in that group?
Which group?
There was like a WhatsApp group with physicians. No, you weren't in that group?
No, I wasn't in that group.
I lost some money in that.
Yeah. No, I wasn't in that.
Are you doing Airbnb with your money from anesthesia?
No.
Just like buy and hold or flipping? You don't have time to flip.
No, I don't like stuff that involves me actually being involved in stuff. No, I bought into a commercial property with some other doctors talking about doing another one, but we'll see.
How is that going for you?
It's going fine. No one emails me. No one calls me. And
you get your check?
Itself. Yeah, it's handling itself. That's how.
Do you feel like being a physician afforded you the opportunity to invest into commercial real estate?
I mean, whatever you do, if you have a large amount of money sitting around and you want to get into something like that, you can. For me, this is just the path I went through. So yeah, that's what gave me the ability to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
10 years from now is hard. If you told me 5 years ago,
okay, let's talk about 5 years from now. Can you tell me?
Even then, I couldn't tell you.
What?
If when I was 30, about to finish residency, if you told me this is what I'd be doing now, I would not have believed you. If you told me this is what I was doing now in medical school, what I'd be doing right now, I would not have believed you. So I can't say what I'm going to be doing in 5 years.
Do you want to retire?
Eventually, yeah. I mean, by 50, if I could just work 3 days a week, that'd be great.
Okay.
But
you're young still.
Yeah. But next 5 years, honestly, my whole plan is just be flexible and adaptable. Do whatever market forces happen, however things change, just be ready to adapt to it and take advantage of it. That's my plan. It's not like rigid. I have to do this by then. It's nothing like that.
Okay.
But I also don't have kids or anything, so I can be flexible. If I have to move for work, I'm ready to do so if I have to.
Is that like, now we're going to get to like the mixy part. So do you want kids? Are you trying to get married? What's your plan?
This is the thing. To work the way I work now, probably not going to work with kids. So something would have to change.
Yeah, so you're going to work less?
Yes, but then you work less, you make less, and kids are going to cost money. So I don't know. We'll see.
Can you please stop that?
Kids are expensive.
You know people who are making how much a month?
I know people that make $100,000 a month.
Doing anesthesia.
Yeah, it's not always going to be that way though. Like I always tell people this. You need to plan major decisions, major expenses in your life with the assumption that you're going to be making considerably less.
The average, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw something, and it could be wrong, so please don't kill me. Yeah. I think the average African-American person makes $45,000 for the year.
Yeah.
And you know people who are making $100,000 in a month?
Yep.
Okay. And you can't afford kids?
I'm not saying I can't afford kids. I like the way my life is right now. Okay. So I'm not terribly inclined to change anything.
Okay.
And kids, once you go down that road,
kids are expensive. It's hard.
You can't go back. And the expense part's not even the bigger issue.
And it's time, too.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we were having that conversation. I'm like, I want to this time to that time, and I want this amount of money.
Yeah.
And you think it's unrealistic.
It's not unrealistic. It's just the nature of what I'm doing, you have to be flexible. You're gonna be exposed to more opportunities if you're flexible and adaptable. If you're very rigid, you just need to. I'd give that advice to someone, and yeah, that's a warning. If you're very rigid, if things need to be a certain exact way for you, you're gonna limit the opportunities that you'll have.
Yeah.
If you're flexible and adaptable, you'll have more opportunities.
Yeah, and I think I like my job because of that. Like I said, one of the issues is not knowing when I'm getting out, but I think they're fair in the sense of, like the other day, I think you were still at work and I was gone.
Yeah.
I worked from 7 to 1 for 2 days out of the week. And one day I worked from 7 to 6.
If I have a day like that, unless I'm working in a plastic surgery office and that's what's booked. If I have a day where I get out there, I don't know what's going to happen. It's nice when it does, but I can't make plans around that.
That's the thing about anesthesia too.
Yeah. Some places you go, you're not leaving until the work is done if you're the only person.
I had, I think it was a medical student who told me they were interested in anesthesia because somebody told them that it was a good lifestyle. And I'm like,
It can be. If you're in the right situation, you can find a job where you just work 7 to 3 every day, 4 days a week. They exist. You may not like the number that comes along with that, but some people, it's not all about money for some people.
Yeah.
So they're happy with that.
But I don't think, and I always tell women who enter the field or tell me that they're interested in anesthesia, that you also have to think about hours because, I have a daughter and I never take her to school. I never take her to school because I'm at work at 6:50 in the morning, and there's no before care that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So these are like, that's why I'm like, if I have to think about stuff like that, if you're gonna have kids, like I've had days where I'm out of the door by 5 a.m. They're not common, but you're out of the door. By 6.
Definitely.
It's already hard enough to do all of that and worry about yourself, find time for the gym, cook for yourself. If you're gonna add another human or two to the mix, that's a lot.
But you're young still. I feel like you have time.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying no. I'm just not in a rush. How old are you? 35.
35. Yeah, you have years.
Yeah.
You have a lot of years left before you start.
I'm just not in a rush.
So before we started, we were talking about plastic surgery, and you work in plastic surgery offices. Yeah. How was that like?
It's easy. And they're healthy people.
Healthy, generally.
Yeah. It's easy. I wouldn't call it like mindless activity, but it's easy. They're healthy.
And you have a whole anesthesia machine or okay.
Anesthesia machine. Some of them are really old, some are not so old, but yeah, they work.
Because there are sites that you go to where they don't have an anesthesia machine.
If you're doing like GI and stuff, they might not, but plastic surgery offices, most of them do.
Yeah, because they're doing GI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the machines might be very, very, very old, but they have them.
Okay.
But they work. That's all you need. You don't really need anything fancy. As long as it does what it's supposed to do, it's fine.
There was a case recently. I don't think we're going to talk about it. Because I feel like I see a lot of plastic surgery offices being advertised in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I just don't know like what's going on with the anesthesia providers. Like I feel like
my friends that live there refer to them as chop shops, and they refuse to work there. So
they refuse to, because you have good friends then.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to work there.
You're not my friends. If they tell you they wouldn't work there, you shouldn't go there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Generally speaking in life, you get what you pay for. If the price looks very, very attractive, it's for a good reason. You should probably avoid it.
Okay. So that's your advice about surgery in Florida specifically?
Yeah. I
agree. Yeah. Do you mentor students? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have people who are going to reach out. They're going to see you. You're young. You're doing your thing. You're intelligent.
People, they've asked, for advice with stuff like that. I haven't had anyone that I've like regularly mentored for an extended period. I'm open to it. But if anyone ever wants to email me, I've met people along the way.
So it's okay for me to put that below?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
You might have to send 2 or 3 sometimes. My emails like,
I'm going to WhatsApp you. You're pretty good with answering your WhatsApp.
Yeah, WhatsApp is easy.
Okay.
Yeah, the messages will be there. Emails, you got to scroll. By the time 2-3 hours goes by in the morning, you could have 20 emails and all that stuff. So, but I'm open to it. I'm not against it at all.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So I guess that wraps it up. Thank you for joining me on Money, Power, and Medicine. See you next time.